You're not real. You're dead.
I am.
I killed you with my own...
Oh, you need not remind me. It was the crowning moment of our time together. But that was then, and this is now. I have a favor to ask. Our beloved planet is dying. Slowly. Silently. Painfully. Can you bear to see the planet suffer? Cloud.
There are a ton of chapters in FF7 Remake, each having their own defining moments and unforgettable fights, from reliving the classic of the bombing run, battling the airbuster, bonding with Aerith,
Thanks anyway.
fighting to save Sector 7 from the collapse, boundless, terrifying freedom, 7 seconds to the end, and the absolute batshit insane ending that turns this series completely on its head. This game is a complete package and is setting up for something bigger when Part 2 arrives. You gotta get past Final Fantasy 16 first, but with that said, there's still one chapter in the remake that stood with me still to this day. With the celebration of the 25th anniversary of FF7, I wanted to share why I think Chapter 4 deserves way more credit in Final Fantasy 7 Remake. In the context of the original game, Chapter 4 is completely brand new to the series, expanding on the relationship between Biggs, Jessie, and Wedge, Cloud trying to find his place and fit in, Jessie's ultimate goal of getting her starring role and introducing a brand new character to the series. With a brief appearance in this chapter, seeing a glimpse of Roche, he absolutely stole the show for me, and that's insane when you consider who he shares the stage with in this game. His persona of a third-class soldier who really loves his bike, the thrill of the chase, a good opponent for a fight, and just being insane.
Come on, let's push it past the red line!
Even the guards were stressing that this guy is nuts and you should probably finish the fight before he shows up, but of course it's scripted and he shows up anyways. But when he did show up, he did it in a big way that left a lasting impression on me forever. Some may not like the bike minigames, but for me, as you're fighting each other racing down the tracks, there's a level of intensity and excitement for me that I was all for. And that's just the first fight. The second fight between the two is phenomenal. Just a quick side note, I gotta add, it's a nice touch when Rose shows up and challenges Cloud. Everyone backs off and gives them space because they know when two soldiers are about to fight one another, it's a big event and it needs its space because they are about to go crazy on each other. As many of you have heard Ignition Flame and Under the Cover of Smoke by now, a theme crafted to perfection to fit Roche. I'd say it's one of the best themes in the game. The violins start up with a quick pace, building tension as Roche races around you, and then drops to pull your attention in. The way these scenes were shot also plays a big role in making Roche look completely badass. It made everything feel more intense, and if I had to describe what Roche and Ignition Flame and Under the Cover of Smoke was, I'd say it's finding beauty in the madness. Look, introducing a new character in a remake with years of world and character building solidified into the FF7 that we know today is very tricky and very risky. His appearance is short and brief, but one can say they did this on purpose just in case fan reception was poor. But to me, it really does feel like Roche fits extremely well within the world of FF7. Maybe in the next game they could show the effects of Mako on a soldier candidate, being injected with it to be granted more power, having it also act as a virus slowly eating away at him throughout the course of the game, and every time you fight him again in part 2, his fighting style gets way more erratic, gets way more crazy than what you fought him with originally. But it would be crazy to think that he wouldn't play a larger role in part 2, so whatever happens, I'm excited to see where they take the idea of Roche and carry that into the next game. No question, the musical score of this game is a masterpiece, taking classics and giving them new life while still remaining faithful to the source, showing that this is more than a one-to-one remake, it's a reimagining. The music for Chapter 4 is great from start to finish, starting with Just Another Job, the track that's playing in the back currently. Again, taking a track from the OG game and expanding on it more, leading into Lay Down Some Rubber, Let's Ride, as Jessie explains the real reason why we're traveling topside. settling you into the situation as the bike minigame starts. The chaotic, frantic nature of the minigame section, including the red zone, which is personally one of my favorites, calming things down with Jesse's theme, Moonlight Thievery, and A Tower's Promise, only to ramp it back up with Roche's main themes. Even the little 90s style ending as you base jump back into the slums is pretty amazing as well. Then ending on the debut of the Whispers theme, overall leads to a solid package of music for this chapter. And this may seem like a little aspect of it in the grand scheme of why I like chapter 4 the most, but the most important thing about hearing each and every single one of these tracks is they were memorable to me, and I don't think I'll forget that.
God, this is so embarrassing. I hate playing the damsel in distress.
It happens.
Were you?
Well, seems this old friend of mine's in a tight spot. Long time ago I said I'd be there for her. Made a promise. So...
Can't say this is quite what I had in mind when I put that on you way back when.
Playing through this chapter again, I really wanted to understand the main reason why I love this chapter so much. Other than the music, Roche, the bigger implications of this chapter for part 2, out of all of that, I think it really was the interactions between the characters because they feel extremely real. The relationships between Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, a tight-knit group of friends that will help each other through any situation, while Cloud being the new kid on the block trying to fit in with the group. It reminded me of many moments in my life where I was the new kid in school and trying to fit in with people. Walking with Biggs and Wedge talking about Jesse's father and the live stream down the neighborhood streets. In the grand schemes of the story, you'll probably forget that section because it's slower, it's more tame, it's more relaxed, the pacing is slowed down a bit. So comparing that to all the other things that you see in this game, all the other fantastical Final Fantasy-esque scenes that you see, you're definitely going to forget something like that. But for me, it's burned into my memory. But sticking with Cloud, he's been working with Shinra for most of his late teens and early 20s with his only close friend being Zack. So he hasn't had many opportunities to live a life that's not trying to be a soldier. It seems like that's all he knows, being the badass, edgy soldier. When Cloud was excluded from the Avalanche celebration, it stung to see that, as that's something I can relate to and probably a lot of other people too, who have gone through that in their own lives. But going through this chapter and seeing the way Cloud and the others warm up to each other, it's a cool sight to see him become part of the team. And it's a credit to the performance of the voice actors and the technicians at Square Enix who motion capture this and put this all together to make these interactions feel very real. They absolutely nailed that part. And I still can't get over the little cheesy 90s or 80s, if you will, movie ending. That was perfect. I don't know what it is about it. It was very wholesome to me to see them all together on just standing, getting ready to base jump, and they're just fooling around with each other up there. It was pretty cool to see. And there's something about friends sneaking out and causing some trouble, being back in bed by morning. It's one of my favorite story concepts out there, but things like that is just one of the many reasons why I'll just never forget about this chapter. And I just remember the moment where they all get to Jesse's house and they're crafting the plan of Cloud sneaking into the back, getting Jesse's father's keycard to get into the facility. And the other three are going to play distraction. So you have this moment in the kitchen where Jesse and her mother are connecting, and Jesse's mother is asking her about the play and how she's doing in that, and Jesse's trying to dodge it because she doesn't want her to know what she's really doing and being a fighter for the planet like that. And Wedge is so indulgent into the food that when it's time to go, he asks for seconds and everyone gets mad at him. It's just one of those moments again in that chapter that just feels very real, and I appreciate that. So there you have it, chapter 4. It's not one of the most craziest chapters in the game when you consider it. Like, it's nothing like the bombing run. It's nothing like fighting Genova for the first time. It's nothing like fighting the Airbuster, or even doing Hell House. And I think it was chapter 13. I think. No, definitely not. I'm way off on that. But still, in the grand scheme of the game, and when I hear other people's thoughts on this chapter specifically, they write it off because they think either A, it was very dull and very boring, Roche sucked and they didn't like him at all, so they just completely ignore this chapter. It's short, but I don't know, man. Like, everything that I mentioned in this video, it came together in the most perfect package that I will just never forget about this, and will always have a place in my heart. And that just speaks to how good FF7 Remake is as a game, that we've all played this game 1,000 times over. We can all probably detail our own favorite chapters, like moment for moment, every single beat in those chapters. So yes, FF7 Remake is a Midgar walking simulator, but they did a really good job on making every chapter have its own feel and have its own, I guess you can say, presence. So I would be wondering what other people's favorite chapters are, and I would like to ask that question to you guys, to put into your comments, explain what your favorite chapter is and why you like it. I think I'd really like to know that, because when I say I like chapter 4, people look at me like, "Oh, really? You like that chapter?" And I'm like, and I go into it, and it's like, if we can all explain what our favorite chapters is, then we could probably all get a better understanding of why we like those certain things and why those chapters really speak to us the most. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys stopping by today and spending time with me as I talk about this chapter. But hope you enjoyed. I'll see you all on the next video, and as always, take care of yourselves.